As the year winds down and most of the major film festivals in the fall have already played out, we'll be able to know which film could go home with the gold when award season kicks in. But some of you may not know any of these films whatsoever. My name is Mike Webb, I'm a film lover and critic on the autism spectrum, and I'm here to tell you all the possible upcoming awards-friendly contenders for the rest of the year. Before I start, there are some rules that I'm fitting into this criteria. Number one, these are all upcoming releases as of upload. I will not be talking about any movies that have already been released to the public like Doom Part 2, Challengers, Sing Sing, and even His Three Daughters, which I wholeheartedly recommend. Number two, these films are either said or rumored to be released by the end of the year, although dates are subject to change and may not guarantee a slot this award season. And number three, I am foregoing all the big budgeted studio tentpoles like Joker Folie à Deux, Gladiator 2, and Wicked because everyone will see them regardless of the reception, although there is one I have that wouldn't necessarily fit in that description. Alright, with that out of the way, let's talk about some movies with big awards potential, starting in alphabetical order with Anora. The latest from Sean Baker is a comedy drama about an exotic dancer, the titular Anora, played by Mikey Madison, who falls in love and marries the son of a Russian oligarch whose parents want to force an annulment. Baker's films have garnered a reputation for portraying outcasts and other characters of underrepresented subcultures, whether it's undocumented immigrants like Takeout or sex workers like Tangerine, and more of his recent efforts like The Florida Project and Red Rocket have earned unanimous acclaim, and this one is no exception. It became the first American film to win the prestigious Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival since Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life back in 2011, and became the fifth consecutive win for distributor Neon, which began its run back in 2019 with Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. The response from critics and audiences at various film festivals throughout have been incredibly unanimous, so it's a surefire contender in the long run. Next up is Baby Girl, the latest from Dutch actress turned filmmaker Helena Rain, whose last film was the A24 horror comedy Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It's an erotic thriller starring Nicole Kidman as a high-powered CEO embarking on a forbidden romance with an intern played by Harris Dickinson in a film that explores the complexities of power dynamics and sexuality in a professional work environment. Erotic thrillers are neither mine nor some people's forte, although it did premiere at the Venice Film Festival to rave reviews, with Kidman winning the Volpe Cup for Best Actress. However, she had to leave Venice before the award ceremony due to the passing of her mother. She could vouch for a slot in the already crowded Best Actress race, but we'll see how it shakes out when the film releases this Christmas. And speaking about Harris Dickinson, he also co-stars in the next movie on this list, which is Blitz. This is Apple's biggest contender this season and is also Steve McQueen's first narrative feature since his anthology film cycle Small Axe, which came out during the pandemic. It is a fictional depiction of the London Blitz during World War II, where a defiant young boy goes on an adventure only to find himself in immense peril while his distraught mother, played by Saoirse Ronan, searches for him. All the major industry awards players are suckers for war movies in general. In contrast, more recent films like Hacksaw Ridge, Dunkirk, 1917, and the German remake of All Quiet on the Western Front have all been nominated for Best Picture. Steve McQueen does have a Best Picture win under his belt for 12 Years a Slave, and he's not a subtle filmmaker in general given the nature of his filmography. But this will be his most accessible film, with Apple giving it a dual theatrical streaming release in November. We'll have to wait for the response in the coming weeks, as it is both the opening film for the London Film Festival and the closing film for New York. Next up is The Brutalist, the one movie that has garnered the most enthusiastic buzz from a fall film festival premiere. It is an epic historical drama chronicling 30 years in the life of a Hungarian Jewish architect played by Adrian Brody, who survives the Holocaust and immigrates with his wife to New York. This is from former actor turned filmmaker Brady Corbet, who is quickly becoming one of the next auteurs in filmmaking. His two previous films, The Childhood of a Leader and Vox Lux, are incredibly stylish films with very challenging subject matter. It's shot on VistaVision, projected on 70mm film, and has a 3.5-hour runtime with a 15-minute intermission in between. It's gotten a rapturous response from both Venice and Toronto, comparing it to films like The Godfather and There Will Be Blood, with some even calling it a masterpiece. Not only Corbet's direction, the cinematography, and musical score have been praised, but also the performances from Brody, Felicity Jones, and Guy Pearce have also been lauded. A24 has picked the film up for US distribution with a planned limited release during the holiday season, so this could be a big player come Oscar time. Be on the lookout for that. Speaking about movies coming out during the holiday season, let's talk about A Complete Unknown. My boy Timothée Chalamet is playing Bob Dylan in a musical biopic directed by James Mangold. Adapted from Elijah Walt's 2015 book Dylan Goes Electric, it follows the Minnesota musician's meteoric rise as a folk singer during the influential New York music scene in the early 60s. Music biopics as a genre are a tried and true formula that has been done before too many times. But given that Mangold also brought us Walk the Line and Ford vs. Ferrari, and with a good pedigree of people both on and off camera, this could bring something interesting for people who either know or don't know the music/life of Bob Dylan. This is a film completely sight unseen at the moment. They finished earlier this summer and is currently in post-production with possible reshoots happening as we speak. This is Searchlight Pictures' biggest contender, where it is currently fast-tracking for a Christmas Day release. Next up is Conclave, a thriller set in the Vatican. Ralph Fiennes plays a cardinal who is tasked with organizing a papacy election after the sudden passing of the Pope, but uncovers a secret the former Pope had that could affect one or more of the candidates vying to succeed. Also starring in this film are Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, and Isabella Rossellini. Edward Berger, who recently directed the aforementioned German adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front, is at the helm of adapting the Robert Harris novel of the same name. It looks and sounds like conventional awards bait in the vein of something like Imitation Game or Darkest Hour, but with generally positive reviews coming out of Telluride and Toronto, this film could play well with older audiences and voters alike. There's also an interesting narrative hovering around the internet where Ralph Fiennes is long overdue for another Oscar nomination and possibly a win, since he hasn't been nominated in almost 3 decades. It is scheduled to be released in the US by the end of October, just in time for the election. Up next on this list is Emilia Perez. French auteur filmmaker Jacques Audiard, best known for the films A Prophet, Deepan, and The Sister Brothers, has made a film entirely in Spanish. It is a musical crime comedy set in Mexico about a lawyer, played by Zoe Saldana, who is offered to help a cartel boss fake his death and transition into becoming the woman he's meant to be. That sounds like a completely bonkers plotline if you ask me. Actor Carla Sofia Gascon plays the titular cartel boss and also stars Adriana Paz and Selena Gomez. I had no idea she was in this movie. When the film premiered back at the Cannes Film Festival in May, it received very polarizing and divisive reviews from critics, with some calling it bold and daring and others a complete mess. The film ultimately ended up winning both the Best Actress prize for the 4 actresses and the Jury prize, which is technically 3rd place, at the closing ceremony. It then screened at both Telluride and Toronto, where the response was more unanimously praised, with the latter festival awarding it as the 2nd runner-up for the People's Choice Award, which has become a big indicator on what will get nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Many pundits have predicted it will be one of the heavier contenders, with the possibility that Gascon can make history as the first trans actor to be nominated for an acting Oscar. Likewise, it could also get 2 supporting actress nominations for both Zoe Saldana, who is currently positioned as the frontrunner, and possibly Selena Gomez. It is also opted for Best International Feature, as it is France's submission, and Netflix is pushing it for a very friendly November release both in theaters and on streaming. And speaking about incredibly bold and audacious musicals, there's also The End. If you thought the plot of Emilia Perez was bonkers, wait until I tell you this. It is a post-apocalyptic musical about a wealthy family with no character names who have been living in an underground bunker for 25 years until a woman comes in and completely disrupts their lives. 2-time Oscar-nominated documentarian Joshua Oppenheimer, known for The Act of Killing and The Look of Silence, makes his narrative debut with a cast that includes Tilda Swinton, Michael Shannon, George Mackay, and Moses Ingram. The reviews have been mixed to lukewarm coming out of festivals like Telluride and Toronto, with most praising the craft, but some have qualmed with it, with its bleak tone, to its bloated 2.5-hour runtime, to its off-putting musical numbers that should be reminiscent of the golden age of Hollywood. But those who praise it have called it a cult film in the making. I do like the cast involved, although I don't think mainstream audiences will be on board with it, and it will probably get lost in the shuffle. It is scheduled for a December release, courtesy of Neon, my favorite indie distributor working today. The final film I'm going to talk about on this list for now is Exhibiting Forgiveness. I watched it out at this year's Sundance Film Festival, where I was bombarded with a lot of heavy-handed family dramas, and I feel like this could be the one indie that grabs industry voters out of nowhere. It is the feature film debut of contemporary painter Titus Kaphar, and is an autofiction about a black artist played by Andre Holland who gets an unexpected visit from his estranged father, John Earl Jelks, and struggles with the idea of learning to forgive him for all the past mistakes he's made for his family. It sounds conventional, but Kaphar brings a solid touch to it, as it deals with themes of family and generational trauma, and filled with incredible performances from Holland, Jelks, Andra Day, and Ingenue Ellis Taylor. As of upload, it currently has a score of 81 out of 100 on Metacritic, which is the lowest you would indicate it as universal acclaim. I could see this breaking into the smaller awards bodies like the Gothams and the Indie Spirits, but if Oscar voters were to secretly poll another To Leslie, I would like to see Andre Holland in the running for Best Actor. It's not an easy film to sit through, and I'll do a 1-minute review for it when it officially comes out mid-October, so be on the lookout for that pretty soon. And with that, this concludes part 1 of all of the upcoming films slated for awards for the rest of the year. I'll try my best to churn these videos out as quickly as possible because we're already in the early stages of award season as we speak. In the meantime, like this video and leave a comment on what you're excited about for the rest of the year, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'm inching closer and closer to reaching 100 subscribers, and make sure you ring the bell to be notified of when new videos drop. You can also check out my latest video that is appearing on your screen right now, or click on my thumbnail if you want to see more. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all at the movies.